Wow, that took a really long time to go live. Sorry if you were sitting there waiting. I had to literally shut it down and start again. And I was thinking, oh no, it's not going to work. And I didn't know why. Hello, good morning. Happy Sunday. Tell me where you're tuning in from. Tell me who's here. Um, yeah, oh, thank goodness that worked because I was worried that it wasn't going to work. All right. So I have my cuppa here. What are you drinking? Tell me what you're drinking. And I was just scrolling through Instagram as you do, and I saw this quote meme and I thought, oh, that is just so relevant. It won't show you. So relevant today, but it's by Spirit Daughter. It's a lovely channel or whatever you call it on Instagram. Hey, from NC. Okay, Michelle, you have to tell me what NC is because I'm Aussie. I'm getting that that's American. It's not New York. NC. Wouldn't be Nevada. Tell me where that is, because I love a little bit of geography. I love learning geography. So the thing I read on Spirit Daughter this morning was, it's time to release your past self. North Carolina. Didn't come to my head. Thank you. It's time to release your past self to make space for your new self to breathe. And I was like, oh, that's so relevant, which I love. I love when you have synchronicities of what's going on. Because today I want to talk about that it's never too late to transform your life, to transform your health, no matter what's going on for you. Okay. So it doesn't matter if you've got something like lipedema that's not reversible that we know of at this point in time, even though we do see that a lot. Oh, I reversed my lipedema. No, you may have stopped progression of lipedema, but my understanding, and it's all still new for me because this is not something I have researched thyroid disease for more than a decade. And had it myself for 3 decades over. But it doesn't matter if you've got something that's supposedly not reversible. Bottom line is you still want to feel better, and it's never too late to feel better. I was actually talking with my husband on our afternoon walk yesterday, and we were I said to him, wow, had I realized 5 years ago how much my physical life would have changed, I wouldn't have believed it. A double knee replacement, losing 60 kilos, 130 pounds, going grey. I'd like letting my natural hair color come through. I would never have believed you had you said I was going to do all of these things. And I'm 54, 55 next birthday. So I am learning more and more. A lot of people that follow me and comment and tell me what's going on, tell me, I get a lot of comments from 70-year-olds that are changing their world. And I love that because it doesn't matter how old you are. Bottom line is we always just want to feel good. We want to feel healthy. We want to feel happy. We want to feel like we're doing something with our life, right? So I think that what I wanted to talk about today was like what's stopping people from perhaps moving forward with their health. And often, particularly with women, us women, we're great at this. We don't put ourselves first. Never. Okay? Because we're not kind of designed to when you think about it. We're designed to put the kids first. We're designed to put the husband or the partner first or everybody else. We're nurturers. We're designed to put everybody else first except ourselves. And so it's not really comfortable for us to put ourselves first. So to me, I'm like, okay, so how do you get around not putting yourself first with your health, especially if you need to? If you're struggling with your knees, I mean, God, we would exercise because my husband's answer to everything is exercise, always has been like, got a headache, go for a walk. It's like that's his answer, which is great. But for years, my knees ached. I didn't know until I suddenly went, you know what, I think I'm going to have an MRI just to make sure there's nothing wrong with them. And finding out that I had, 4 meniscal tears and a ruptured ACL and a Baker's cyst, like a huge one on the back of one knee. And I was bone on bone. Like, is it any wonder I was in pain? Here's the thing. When it's our kids, particularly, or somebody really close to you if you don't have kids, if there's something wrong, you don't stop researching. You don't stop looking up the answers. You will find a way to make your child, your loved one, whoever it is, feel better. We do. That's what we do as women, as nurturers. We need to do that for ourselves. We need to look at what's hurting us, what's making us feel bad, what's making us not live the life that we perceive we should be living, and write it all down. Like literally get a pen and paper and mind map it and do notes as if it was your child and you have a problem that you need to solve for them because they can't do it for themselves. Well, newsflash, nobody's going to do it for us either. So we need to be our own advocate. There's a lot of people that talk about this online for all different diseases, but we do. We need to sit down and go, what are the things that are bothering us, that's stopping us from living the life that we want to live? And how can we change that? Like, what are our options? So, we may not have the financial means. We may live in an area where we don't have access to doctors for diagnoses, or whatever the plural of that is. There's so many different things that we have to take into account individually, which is why nobody else is going to do it for us, because nobody else knows what's going on for you specifically, right? So and honestly, the first things that you can deal with is the low-hanging fruit, right? Even without a diagnosis, if you suspect you have lipedema, if you suspect you have some kind of chronic disease, you've watched all the YouTube videos, you've researched all the things, and you have it, but there's no doctor in your environment or in your town that can diagnose you, well, don't wait for the diagnosis. Putting into place the diet and lifestyle habits that people talk about for that issue doesn't cost you anything, likely isn't going to hurt you. So start with what you can do. It's the same thing, back to the child. If your child is running rampant on red candy and you think it's the color in it, that's because you've read it everywhere, you've seen it everywhere, well, you're not going to wait for a diagnosis for your child. You're just going to take the red candy away. So we've got to do that for us. And I think often the simplest things like that make the biggest changes in our life, but we don't do it. And I've written myself a list because I always digress and get on and go off on two little tangents. So the first step is to research your issue, right? Always. And if you're here, no doubt you've either got lipedema, think you have lipedema, thyroid disease, or one of the things that I've always talked about. So if you want to share with me, I'd love to know. I always like to know who's watching, where from, and what issues you have, because it helps sort of guide what I talk about. But to me, I'm self-diagnosed lipedema, and I spoke to one of you lovely people last week about this, who's also self-diagnosed at 71, I think she said she was. And it's very, like, for lipedema specifically, I'm not self-diagnosed for thyroid disease, but for lipedema I am. I live in a small country town in the northwest of Western Australia, and there is no doctors up here that would have heard of it, let alone would know how to diagnose it, I've got no doubt. But it's very clear, the symptoms are very clear with lipedema. It's, to me, unless I can afford to go and have the liposuction, which is supposedly the only way that I can help lipedema, then I don't feel like I need a diagnosis unless I'm going to follow that route. And even if you follow that, are you going to get any money back on Medicare here in Australia? No, you're not. So it kind of, to me, it's not very much an important thing for diagnosis, specifically from the lipedema standpoint, because it doesn't help me. It doesn't give me any money back. It doesn't, all it does is it adds another, here's the weird thing. It adds another thing to your history. And I know, I'm not so much here in Australia, but I know in America, if you don't want any extra things added to your medical history than is necessary because of your insurance situation and all that kind of thing. And I pretty much feel the same way, mind you. The insurance companies would just have to look up my YouTube channel and they would go, oh, she's clearly got more than what she says she's got going on. But I don't feel like you need to chase the diagnosis, particularly for lipedema, and for anything that you can't do anything about. But what we do in our brain and in our mental capacity is, for not getting a diagnosis or chasing a diagnosis or feeling like, oh, there's nobody that can diagnose me, actually stops you from doing anything about it. It keeps you in a holding pattern of like, oh, no, I can't do anything until I'm diagnosed, which is really great because that's comfortable for us. It's the change that's not comfortable. Michelle, self-diagnosed with lipedema and lymphedema and doctor diagnosed hypothyroidism. You're my people. Yeah, it's not an unusual thing to have the thyroid and the lipedema together. And because lipedema and lymphedema, so you're self-diagnosed with lymphedema. Is that because your lipedema has gotten out of control in so much as it's progressed? Or is the lymphedema from another health issue? Because generally lymphedema is either when the lipedema gets past a certain point. I don't know enough about it yet. I'm still researching everything I can lay my hands on right now. And my understanding of lymphedema is, it's progressed past stage 3, I think it is, because of progress. Cool. Okay, thank you. So you, my love, must be in a world of pain, I would imagine, because I know how painful it is. Now, I've lost 60 kilos through weight loss surgery, 130 pounds. However, that did not remove the lipedema fat. I still have lipedema fat all over me, which is really evident in photos and things like that. If you've seen any of my other things that I've put up, I put up photos where it's really obvious that the lipedema is still there. The only thing it does, you can barely walk. I can imagine. Because I struggled, with you, I struggled. That's why I ended up having MRIs on my knees, because I was like, it shouldn't be this hard. And I was just kind of in denial about my weight. I look back at photos and I go, I'm in denial. But the weight loss surgery, what it did for me was just remove everything that wasn't lipedema related. And it's amazing how much of it was just obesity. Because here's what I'm learning from watching a lot of the lipedema doctors is that the lipedema fat attracts more fat a lot easier than if you didn't have lipedema fat. As I said, I don't know enough about it, but this is what I'm learning, is that the lipedema fat attracts more fat. So it's that much easier to put weight on. So I was, when I lost that weight, and it's still it goes up and down 2 kilos kind of thing. When I'm really strict carnivore, it goes down. And when I'm not strict carnivore, it goes up. So it just kind of, and I suspect, and I was saying, my hubby and I were talking about it the other day, is that potentially I'm now I have left to lose is lipedema fat, which is liposuction. There's no other way of getting rid of that fat because it's in a place where you cannot exercise or diet it away. So for me, diagnosis was not that important because I could see, I say I didn't get diagnosed, but I had an oncology nurse who I went to she did lymphatic drainage massage, and she actually looked at me and went, oh, you're a lippy lady. And I was like, this is news to me. I've spent 4 years becoming a naturopath, a clinical nutritionist, I'm a herbalist, and nobody ever mentioned lipedema. So it was like, oh, so that was kind of my diagnosis was that oncology nurse who knew a lot about all the lipedema, lymphedema, and lymphatics. So I then looked at what can I do? What can I do mentally? What can I do physically? What are my medical options? And what I always do is how does this affect me emotionally? You know, anything that I can do, how is this going to affect me mentally and emotionally? And so clearly, if you can't walk and you're in a situation of, you know, you're not living life, are you? So it's very much a case of what's the low-hanging fruit? What can I do? Can I try carnivore diet for the inflammation? Does that make life easier for me? Is there a waiting list for a weight loss surgery? You know, that's government. I know here in Australia you can go on a waiting list. Even I had insurance that covered my weight loss surgery. And I still to this day don't know why the weight loss surgery helped me lose weight when I was plant-based, which clearly I'm understanding with lipedema was not the best option. But, you know, you can only change things as you learn things and try them for yourself and see what works for you. But I would definitely, if you're in a situation of I don't feel like I can do anything or change anything, that Michelle, if you're still here, because I can't tell if you're still here or not, how old are you, if you don't mind sharing with me, because that's always of interest as well. Yeah, I would absolutely be what is within your control. You're 56, so well, close to me. So I know I am now feeling my age. Even after weight loss, I feel way better. But there's the lipedema still there. I can still feel that I've got some kind of hypermobile joints. So every now and again, I'll walk in a certain way and I'll go, yeah, it's still there. You've got to be careful. But like, it's funny how you suddenly get to a point where you're like, wow. And this was for me, when I turned 50, no other age group have I thought, oh my God, 40, oh my God, 30. I've never had that. But when I turned 50, I had this moment of, oh, if I'm lucky, I'm halfway there. Now I've got a genetics of people living into 90s happily. So perhaps if I'm lucky, I'm halfway there. But now at 50, almost 55, I'm not. I'm more than halfway there. And it just kind of made me suddenly change my attitude towards myself and go, oh, you know what? I actually really, really am sick of being in pain. I'm really, really sick of thinking about what clothes am I going to wear. And I've been looking, because whenever I do these thumbnails of the before and after, I've had to go back and find photos of myself or videos of myself, of my big self, and which are very hard to find because you don't want to take photos of yourself. So therefore the memories are not there. But the few photos that I find of myself or videos, because I've always run thyroid school and I have never been, I guess, too shy to come on video and talk about, you know, struggles and things like that. There is videos of me at my biggest self, and I've looked at them and gone, wow, I felt like I looked really good in that top. I looked slim and all the things. And it's funny because I remember those moments. And you just, it just takes up the weight, the fatigue, the effort to do anything, just takes up all of your brain space all the time. And I just didn't want to do that anymore. So when I came across studies on the weight loss surgery, even though I knew I was going to be judged 6 ways from Sunday, a naturopath having weight loss surgery, oh my God. But what those people don't realize is that I became a naturopath too. My whole 4 years of college was based around me. Everything I learned how does this affect me? How is this? Because this, I did it around my thyroid at the time because I didn't know I had lipedema. But everything I did, I was like, oh, how can I apply this to myself? How can I apply this to thyroid health? So when I say I had done everything, I had done everything, including the studying of myself. But definitely now I'm very much like, what can we do that is the opposite of what we've ever thought was right? Try that. Because weight loss surgery was that for me. I was like, I don't eat enough. That's not for me, right? Didn't think it would work. That was the opposite of what I ever thought was possible. Carnivore, eating carnivore right now is the opposite to all my belief systems, pretty much all my life. I didn't believe in plant-based eating when I was a kid, but I pretty much gravitated towards things that weren't meat related. So, and particularly then as an adult, I would naturally just eat. I love salads. I love veggies. I would naturally gravitate towards that. And then after becoming a naturopath, I was all in on the plants. I thought that was the answer to everything. Carnivore that actually helps me and keeps me in check and makes me feel good and keeps my mental health happy is the complete opposite of that. So I don't know. I'm very much of the thought process. What have you always thought or said you would never do because it triggers you in some way or it goes against some kind of belief system you have? I'd be like, try that. Now, when I look back, I'll be like, try that. And then we can go, okay, but meat's too expensive and all that sort of stuff. Yep, I hear you. But let me tell you this. Every now and again, I will have a little plant-based moment, and I will go buy a few things, some onions and some broccoli and a couple of things. I always end up throwing them away. I end up, I'll eat some and then I will feel crappy and then I will go back to carnivore. But it made me realize all the times that I've thrown away fruit and veg over the years. You never throw away meat. You always make sure you've eaten the meat before the use by date. You freeze it if you can't eat it. You cook it into something and whack it in the freezer. You never waste money with meat. And I have to wonder how much cheaper. And you don't have to buy the expensive cuts with meat, right? There's chuck steak, which over here is gravy beef, is what's called gravy beef. I cook that in the slow cooker often. There is cheaper cuts of meat. Mince, fantastic, it's or minced meat, I think, for Americans. I've got to get the lingo right? But even if you can't do all of it, you think you can't do all of it, try some of it. Try having just eggs for breakfast every morning. And if you can't eat breakfast in the morning, this was one of my issues, right? I could never eat breakfast. It was like, oh, I'm not going to eat breakfast. That's a sign of liver health, all right? If you're feeling queasy in the morning and the thought of breakfast is just like, and then you go, oh, all these intermittent fasting people that don't eat breakfast. Well, I've never eaten breakfast and it hasn't helped me, right? It's not because the fasting's no good for thyroid people or hormonal people anyway, because it's a stressor on the body, okay? Your body, your adrenals actually need breakfast to go, oh, I'm safe, I've been fed, right? Because our bodies and our brain is ancient. We think it's 54 years old, 56 years old, 71 years old. Like, that's what we think. It's actually not. It's ancient. And it's running on ancient programming. So when we don't eat, often for women particularly, it's seen as famine and you hold weight. Okay, I actually eat more now after weight loss surgery than I ever did in all the years I held all that weight. Way more. Particularly on days that I'm trying to reach a protein goal, like 140 grams, I've got to eat 5 meals a day of meat to fit that in. But those days, I always drop like a kilo overnight, 2 or 3 pounds overnight. And yet I've eaten more than I've ever eaten in my life. It's crazy, but you've got to test these things with yourself. I did a lot of shorts last week. and short, videos. And one of the things I did was being your own crash test dummy. I don't think I've released that one yet. Because you are so freaking unique. Michelle, you and I, we've both got thyroid disease, we've both got lipedema. Similar age, we live in different countries, we breathe and drink and eat different bacterias, we come from different families of different belief systems. We're going to need slightly different or potentially really different answers to our puzzle to change what's going on. Age is just merely one of them, It's really funny. We've got to start with what other people are doing, and then we've got to refine it for ourselves. We've got to be our own crash test dummy and test it for ourselves and go, is this working for me? Is this making me feel better? And before you run away and go, oh, no, I tried it for a week and I felt terrible. Yeah, you're going to feel terrible any change you make the first week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, because you're going to detox from things you're not normally eating. You're going to go through all those sorts of issues. Mince is great. Make meatballs with eggs. I actually made, not meatballs, rissoles, as we call them, or beef patties last night. And because hubby was eating them, yes, I had eggs and cheese in them, which I don't normally do the cheese for myself. Keep feta in the freezer and grated in frozen. That's a great idea. Thank you. Huge, great idea. Mind you, cheese in our house doesn't really go off. Being that my husband's mother's French and cheese is a food group. So I never have to worry about cheese going off here. But yeah, I had the rissoles last night. They were beautiful. Hubby decided he wanted mashed potato. That's about the only veggie he eats, and peas. And so he had that. I just had the rissoles in a bowl and I was happy. But the whole thing here is, what's your low hanging fruit? Do the mapping out of all the things, right? I have, and it's not here, it's over there somewhere, a big A3 art book. And whenever hubby and I want to brainstorm something, out come the coloured textures and out come the markers and the big art book. And we do huge, but what if, and we do this for moving to Asia. So if you're new here, Michelle, hubby and I are planning to move to Asia in the next 12 months kind of time frame. So there's a lot that has to go into that, and you sometimes have to brainstorm everything and selling everything and all the things, right? So it's the same with your health. What's your framework, and I often liken it to buying a business. So if you're buying a cafe, you're not just going to go, oh yeah, that cafe sells food and makes money, which you could easily do, right? Well, you're not going to buy it based on that. How many staff does it have? How much money does it take daily? How much does it spend on coffee? How many tables are in that thing? How many people can we seat? How many, there's so much more to it. And that's the same thing we've got to do for ourselves, is like, what symptoms am I having? What things have I been diagnosed with? What's out of my control? What bothers me mentally, physically, and emotionally? What can I do about those things? If I can't do anything about those things from a medical standpoint, what can I do about it emotionally and mentally? What can I do about it physically? Can I change my diet and lifestyle? Can I push myself to do something that I always said I wouldn't do? Then you've got to look at, judgment from others and relationships, and how are you going to deal with the people around you when you decide you're going to do something that you always said you wouldn't do, right? That's the tricky, right? It's so many layers to it, and we just think there's a physical component. There's not just a physical component. It's so easy to go, oh yeah, I'm just going to try this. But if you're having coffee and cake with your girlfriends every Friday morning, and then one day you're not going to eat the cake and you're going to have a peppermint tea instead of a cappuccino, or you're going to have a black coffee instead of your usual cappuccino, the people around you are going to go, oh, what's wrong? First, they're going to want you to feel good because they love you. So they're going to try and talk you into having the thing that they know you actually really want. And if that's not happening, deep down, they want you to eat what they're eating because they don't want to feel guilty about what they're eating. So it's never about you. It's always about, oh no, I know I should not be eating that cake, but you know, I'm going to talk you into having it with me because solidarity, right? I am trying to listen to my body. My problem is I'm impatient. I also love cheese. Oh, cheese is a tough one to give up, so don't be too hard on yourself there. I'm going to give it up to see what happens. I do need to set some goals to work towards. Start with taking your inventory. You're your own business. You are the CEO of your business, right? Take your own inventory. What things can you do? What things are in your control, but you may have to do some mind work around it. Cheese is tricky because it's got an opioid in it. Okay, so it is addictive. It's addictive like cocaine. It's addictive like sugar. So cheese is a tough thing. And any kind of dairy food. You know, vegans always say cheese is literally the last thing that they give up because it holds them. So you've got to do the mental mind work around, I'm not missing out if I don't have the cheese, right? Because that addictive thing will drag you in and it's not your fault, okay? It's a chemical in the food. So that's a tricky thing. So working on yourself and what you've got control over is always to me, you know, if I've got a big list of things of, right, you know, I've got my cafe and you know what, those tables are really old, that's an easy fix. I can get some new tables in. Oh, staff, oh God, you know, the staff aren't that great, but I can't do anything about that right now because I can't afford, you know, someone with better training. You know, it's the same thing with our health. I can't get to a doctor. There's no doctors around. Would a doctor make any difference anyway? Have I got access to be able to pay for liposuction myself? No. Well, then don't worry about that. Which is why actually so many women self-diagnose lipedema. Because unless you can afford to have liposuction or you can afford to see the specialist doctors in this area, what does it do for you? It just avoids you changing your diet and lifestyle. So here's what I discovered actually, and I haven't done this video yet. 2 weeks ago, when I tested eating 140 grams of protein a day, which was a lot for me, right? It was eating till I was full, and it's with weight loss surgery, you've got to eat till you feel your stomach, not to fill your stomach. So it's a tricky thing to navigate. I ate 5 times a day, right? So, but those days that I ate that amount of meat and protein, I did not crave anything else at all. I didn't make my husband and add things to his and think, oh, I wish I'd eat. Whereas most days, if I'm eating, and I tested it. So 4 days I was eating over 140 grams of protein a day. And then the following 4 days was Easter. So you can bet your bottom dollar I had the hot cross bun, and straight away I was hungry all the time. Straight away. So I would say to give up the cheese, your best bet is to load up on the eggs and the other protein, other meats, prawns, shrimp, seafood, fish, whatever your thing is. Load up on those and see if that helps for you to, even if it has to be 5 times a day, remember, opposite to what you're used to doing. Because if you're used to doing something and you're still in a world of hurt and pain and heaviness and all of that sort of thing, then clearly what you're doing isn't working. So what have you got to lose to try the opposite, right? It's never too late to try the opposite of what you've done. And that's my point of this. It's never too late. You know, you wouldn't stop searching for an answer if it was your child or your loved one, your partner, whoever, because that's what we do as women, as nurturers. So it's time to nurture ourselves and to not give up on ourselves and to actually treat it. I find it best to treat myself like a project, like a business. And I sit down and I've done this for years, right? And I sit down and go, right, what can I work on next? You're used to eating once a day, right? I would do the opposite, okay? It's not going to be comfortable because change is not comfortable. When we make a change, what happens in our brain is we have to make new neural pathways. That is not comfortable. And it takes for us to do something over and over and over again, many, many times before that pathway is formed. And then the old pathway, like our body is really smart. If it's not using something, it disintegrates it so it can use the parts somewhere else. And I noticed this morning when I got up and, you know, my husband left for work at 4:30 as usual, and I was making myself breakfast. I went, wow, remember all those years ago when the thought of breakfast just absolutely like, now it's the first thing on my mind is to eat, right? So your brain actually, it becomes more comfortable the more times you use that pathway. So it's the only way. You've got to go through that discomfort, okay? But always, I'm very much of that mind. And I've, do you know what? With naturopathic clients over the years, I've always said this. Tell me the thing that you think you could never give up, the food item, right? That you go on and on, and you always justify because it's healthy or it's good for you or it does something for you, right? For a lot of people, it's nuts and seeds. Guaranteed, 9 times out of 10, that person gives up that particular food. That's the food that's causing them pain or causing them issues or keeping them hungry or all the things. Okay, it always happens. And I'll say, what's the food that if I said to you, you can never have it again, you'd have heart palpitations over? And they'll go, my salad. And it's always like ownership, my nuts and seeds, my muesli, my this, my that. And it's like the thought of giving that up, it's like, oh, no, but that's healthy. It's whole grains. It's phytonutrients. It's whatever it is, right? If that food is giving you like, don't like, and you're justifying it like all over the place, try giving. That's the one you've got to give up. I've seen it time and time again, right? So definitely, I think if you can't do anything, just do the opposite of what you have got control over. Simple. If you struggle to walk, and I did a video on this, I think quite a bit ago about exercise, because I'm not a fan of exercise, never have been a fan of exercise. And I know now that's because of the lipedema legs, right? I just didn't understand at the time. The reason I hated exercise was because it felt so hard and heavy. And like, how can people love this? How can my husband actually love exercise? I just don't get it. He still, in fact, the other day we were walking and it was cooler because I live in a very, very hot environment. And he goes, oh, at least we got out. He said, oh, because that's right, he's got a sore foot at the moment. And he said, oh yeah, a bad day walking is better than a good day of no exercise. So in his head, that's how much he loves exercise. People with lipedema, us ladies, we're like, oh no. Any day that he comes home and even now, after losing the weight and walking for 5 kilometers, 5 miles is not a problem. I can do it easily. I still have that neural pathway that if he comes home and goes, oh no, I'm too tired to go for my beauty, I'm so happy, not interested. And that's probably still that neural pathway. I still haven't, even after a year or more of being at this weight, I still have that neural pathway that exercise is hard. So it takes a really long time to break through that. But I'm like, when people say I'm too old to change, I'm too old for this, I'm too old for that, I'm like, are you still breathing? Because if you're still breathing, you kind of want to feel good, right? You just started doing leg and arm exercise sitting on the side of the bed, committed to. That's what that YouTube video I did, I don't know how many ago, it says something about I hate exercise or exercise is hard or exercise for lipedema or whatever it is. That's exactly, there are a few things that you can do that you have to commit to it like you're doing, which is good on you, because that's what I mean about what do you have control over, okay? Walking might be so freaking hard. Get the trolley. Go to the supermarket, go to the mall or whatever, and if it's air conditioned, and lean on the trolley, go a little bit further each day, right? So, and then to me, exercise, walking particularly, I never wanted to go for a walk for the sake of going for a walk. Never. I would do it for my husband. That was it, because he loves it and he gets something out of it mentally, right? That's what he loves. But take me on holidays, take me to Singapore, take me to Bali, take me to Thailand. I will walk 20,000 steps a day because I want to look at all the shops. I want to see all the things. So to transfer that into your everyday life, go to the shops, lean on a trolley. Nobody gives a crap. Literally, nobody's looking at you. Nobody cares. They're also wound up in their own life as you are, right? So do the things you can do. And if looking at shops takes your mind off your legs and the pain, because you still do need to move, but can you get an MRI? Can you just double check like I did in 2020 at 49? I checked that just better make sure my legs are actually okay, because I discovered that under 50 in Mandurah, anyone watching from Australia, if you're under 50, there was a lab there that you could get MRIs for free. I had to go back 2 days because I would only do one in 1 day for free to do both knees. But it was just this moment of, I better just check before I continue on this endless journey of losing weight through exercise and plant-based eating. Didn't work. Just double check. If you have got the capacity to double check, do that, and make sure that you're not dealing with something worse than what you think you are, and that it's just your weight and that it's just the lipedema, okay? Just double check that kind of thing if you have the ability to do so. And everything else then, weightless exercise on the side of the bed, on the couch, that kind of thing. If you can get a rebounder and sit on the rebounder. I have watched people, your fear of falling keeps you from going to the store. That can be a goal for you, yes. If you can have somebody come with you and get you a trolley straight away, it doesn't matter how old you are and that you think people are looking at you because, like, how old are you, and you're only young and you've got a walker, or it doesn't matter. Because they don't go to sleep in your head, right? You've got to do whatever's out there for you. And if that means hiring a walker or buying one that you can sit on every now and again, who cares? Who cares? It doesn't matter what people are thinking, because I can tell you this, they're not going home thinking about you. And if they are, it's because you've triggered something in them that they know they need to do. Always without fail. Okay, it's never about us. But if your fear of falling, and I forget who it was, I watched somebody who rehabilitated themselves on the rebounder. However, like the mini trampoline, they sat on it because they could not stand on it. So they sat on it and used their core muscle strength to, and they built their muscle that way until eventually, I think it was 2 years before they could actually stand on it. But that made a difference. So again, on your brainstorming, on your piece of paper, what do you have control over? What can you do? Think outside the square. Watch all the YouTube videos that you can find on like there's so many YouTube videos on exercise or seated exercise. So from anywhere from physiotherapists doing them to other people who can't walk, that sort of thing. So look up all of those, see what works for you, find out what works for you on a daily basis. Change the food thing, do the opposite, right? I'm not here to say carnivore is the answer for everyone, because I now, of all people, understand that there's not one thing that's right for everybody at all. Right. I don't know if you know, Michelle, I have a business called Thyroid School. Maybe that's where you've come from. I'm not sure. But I released the Thyroid magazine. Okay. You can't get them printed up. I had them printed just because I wanted to. It's a digital magazine. So you get it online, but you can get that on Thyroid School. But I started this because I'm now carnivore. That's what's working for me right now. But I had to reach out to people to write guest articles on plants, on different things like that, because there's not one thing for everybody. And you've got to be open to that. But you've also got to be open to changing your views for yourself. Had I not changed my views on plant-based eating, maybe I would continue. You see so many people after weight loss surgery put the weight back on. Maybe that would happen for me. But I know when I stick to carnivore most of the time, my weight stays in check. Okay. So you've got to be willing to look at all avenues, which is why I started that magazine and got in other people, because thyroid disease answers for one person is different to another person. You can start with look, most people are saying this, let's take thyroid disease. Most people are saying gluten-free, dairy-free at the very least. Okay, so start with that. And then you might be the person that you're okay with dairy, doesn't cause you any problems, doesn't cause you any anxiety, doesn't cause you depression, and you're good to go. But you don't know until you try these things and you're open to the possibility of, maybe something else. And the bottom line is, if you've been doing the same thing like I had been, 30 years of the same kind of thing and nothing was changing, it's time to do the opposite. It's time to really test your inner strength and resilience and go, well, everything I have been taught about eating meat and nothing else is not good, as I'm sure most people are. But I am constantly pushing that. And now I'm at a point where when I do eat the plants, I don't feel great. I get hungrier. I feel my limbs. I feel my knees, even though I've got 2 fake knees now. I've got 2 titanium knees. If I eat carbs or plants even for days in a row, I feel my knees when I'm walking. They don't hurt, but I can feel them. When I'm eating pure carnivore, I never feel them. Or even when I'm eating dirty carnivore, where I'm only having the odd, keto wrap or something like that. But even the keto wrap, I've discovered after doing all the testing last week, knocks me out of ketosis. We want to be in ketosis if we have pain, because ketones are anti-inflammatory. I learned that last week, and I'm like, oh, that's why carnivore is really great for lipedema, the pain relief. So, that is what I wanted to say today was, you're not too old, because if you're still breathing, you deserve to feel good. You deserve to feel like life's worth living. Okay. And I know with chronic disease, sometimes you can go, what's the point? Or as we'd say in Australia, what's the bloody point? Right? That's just like, oh, come on. So it's never too late. And the starting point is that big art book and the markers, and draw out all the things. What have you got going on? Be honest with yourself as to what you have got going on. And then what are your options? Go researching as if this is your most favorite, your person, the person you love most in this world. What wouldn't you research for that person? Whoever it is, your child, your partner, your husband, whatever. You research like your life depends on it, because it does, right? Your quality of life depends on you researching all the things, and try the things you haven't tried. Because if you are still in the same place that you were 20 years ago, or for me, 30 years ago, you haven't found the answer for you. And remember that answer is more than just physical. It's physical, it's mental, it's emotional. It's how to talk to people, that, your relationships, and say, this is what I need. Saying to my husband that I'm going to have weight loss surgery, do you know how hard that was? Right? So it's so much bigger than just, I've just got to find the right diet. With lipedema, it's so much more than that. With any chronic disease, it is. So I'm going to leave it there, because I've been gas bagging for 50 minutes, which is obviously, it was a topic I'm very passionate about today. And I just want to see, Oh, Michelle, you're worth it. If nobody else has told you and you don't tell yourself, you're actually worth it. You're worth feeling good. You're worth the effort. You're worth the change. You're worth the, oh, this doesn't feel good, but I'm going to have a go, right? There's a lady called Charlotte Gerson, and I know about her because her father's protocol is plant-based, which is a protocol that I tried in college. But she always says nobody ever died from healing. And sometimes when we change what we do, it feels so uncomfortable that you think, oh, this has got to be bad for me. But it's not a physical discomfort. Well, it is a physical discomfort. It's just your brain making those new pathways. So you can do it. Anybody watching this can do it. And I'm cheering you on. So hopefully I'll see you next Sunday, same time, although it's Saturday afternoon for you, Michelle. I'm expecting something like that. I still don't know my time frames over there. But everybody else that tuned in, and for anyone watching the replay, you're worth it. You really are. See you next week. Bye.